That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I want to start with the Mark Carney situation. For people who did not hear, maybe you're at work this morning, there was an announcement today on GST credits, and we will have that entire speech coming up just after 5:30 with details on it as well. But, you know, one of the questions that's come up now, and it came up today directly to the Prime Minister, was to react to what Donald Trump had said with respect to Canadians serving in the military, who Trump, I think, said, Brad, do you have that Donald Trump clip where he talks about the Canadian military, right? So this is what he said, Jim.
I've never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little off the front line.
I mean, as big a slap in the face as you possibly could from Donald Trump, who apparently doesn't know about Canadians, 158 of whom died serving alongside Americans. He'd said the same thing about the Brits. And got lambasted by the British Prime Minister as well for this. What was your first of all, with respect to what he said? What was your reaction?
Well, I think it's par for the course for a five-time draft dodger to turn around and denigrate the sacrifice that Allied troops made for the United States of America, which had been attacked, as we may recall, on 9/11. Afghanistan was a response to that, rightly or wrongly. It was interesting, though, today because, and the other thing as well, between, Trump's absolutely obscene insult of NATO and what are rapidly becoming the U.S.'s former allies. He also decided, because of this deal with China, to once again, or to start referring to Prime Minister Carney as Governor Carney. So, of course, these two things were raised during today's press conference to announce the GST rebate. And it is fascinating, Aaron, because, and it's really worth playing those clips as well. He doesn't mention Trump by name. He is so exquisitely dismissive. But he does point out that Canada was the first to invoke Article 5 to go to the defense of a NATO ally who'd been attacked in 9/11, had sent, over the course of 13 years in Afghanistan, deployed 40,000 troops, and as you say, 158 died. He also points out that 30 of those troops were awarded the U.S. Bronze Star for courage in combat. So, as I say, once again, you have to look at things in their perspective. Donald Trump is, if nothing else, a demonstrable coward. He's a five-time draft dodger. He is also the same president who described his own war dead as suckers and losers. So I'm not entirely surprised by that, but I am quite impressed by the way Mark Carney essentially paved over Trump and his idiocy. And as for being referred to as Governor Carney, it was fascinating. Once again, never mentioning Trump. Basically saying, I'm going to get called a lot of names in this job, but I'm not going to start reacting to every tweet and every Truth Social and every post that comes up. In other words, you know what? He shrugs it off, and this is what it is. It is white noise coming from the most disastrous president in U.S. history, who is essentially tightening a noose around his own neck, whether it's with domestic violence within his own country, whether it's with corruption, whether it is indeed alienating allies and trade partners. This guy does it all. He's a quadruple threat. But the fact is, to listen to the Prime Minister of Canada today, it's almost as if he was talking to an anonymous troll or a poster online. I'm not going to get worked up about this. I'm not going to react to this. No. And you know what? I think, and if we look now at I think a poll came out this weekend saying his approval rating of Canadians is like 62%. I think maybe it just went up to 72 with those comments.
So, by the way, so just to put this in context, with respect to what you just mentioned, right, about being called governor, which is something Trump used to do with Justin Trudeau, here is that question and answer from the Prime Minister in this morning's press conference.
Yeah. Morning, Prime Minister. Mike with CTV News. I just want to follow up on what Tom was asking. Are you offended by being called governor?
I mean, I think in this role you get called a lot of things a lot of time, and I'm not going to comment on every tweet or truth or comment from whoever. So I can handle it.
From whoever. So there you go again. Same as he did in Davos, right? Not pointing out anybody, i.e. the president specifically by name. So deftly handled, I think.
And what I couldn't point out in recounting this, did you like that little exasperated laugh at the beginning of his answer?
Yeah.
Like, here we go again. Like, you guys know, and I know exactly what all this is about, what this stupidity is about. But I also know that if I come down too hard on this head case, who knows? Maybe there'll be like a zillion % tariffs on Canadian goods by the end of the day. So, but as you say, Aaron, it's the best way to deal with this guy. I think it really. I don't know if it could be picked up in media outside of Canada. I doubt it'll be picked up in the U.S. But the fact is, I think we have got a pretty good indicator here of the best way to deal with Trump. And quite frankly, I think of a lot of people, and I was among their number, I'm not going to lie, who was worried that, maybe we overestimated Carney in terms of being an obstacle or a buttress against Trump. I think that has been sort of swept away. I think it's very clear that if there's anybody on earth capable of dealing with Donald Trump for the foreseeable future, it's the Prime Minister of Canada.
It's interesting you say that, Jim, because I actually heard an interview earlier on today with Elias. Diane Francis was on, and when asked the question about how he's handling things with the U.S., and this was about trade as well, this idea that, no, he's not doing the right thing, where Canadians say, you know what, and this is what the opposition says, and I appreciate it's their job. You said it was, what was Pierre Poilievre's line? It's not about rhetoric, right? It's about results, and where are the results, which seems to me a bit rich, but I'm curious what you think about that.
Listen, this whole weekend as well, in terms of the fact that Parliament is resuming and that this week Poilievre will probably pass his leadership review with flying colors, a lot of people have turned around and says, you know what, the opposition, it's the loyal opposition, and the opposition's job is to improve. It's not to oppose everything. And this is the problem with what I can only refer to as Poilievre's conservatives, is that it doesn't matter if they can score a cheap hit on anything whatsoever, that's it. There's plenty to criticize. There was plenty, I think, to look at and kick the tires on this announcement for the GST, but we're not hearing about that. And maybe I fully apologize if it came up in question period today, if it came up in the House today, but the fact of the matter is that's the reputation they have now. They are the little boy who didn't just cry wolf. They are the little boy who cries, Canada is broken, all the time, whether it's about the weather, the cost of living, or your TV reception. Canada is down the tubes. And quite frankly, I think it's wearing thin with not just people who support the Liberals or people who are not aligned one way or the other. I think there's some conservatives out there who are getting pretty fed up with this whole shit.
I think you're right. I think that's starting to fray, if you will, in terms of just, support across the board. Not to your point, by the way, Poilievre is going to win this leadership review. I think that's what most people are saying.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't necessarily portend well for him, as the leader of the party. I mean,
well, no, and as I say, this is the best gift. The Liberals will be popping bottles of champagne if he gets a nice high approval, because that means this is what they'll have to face for the foreseeable future, and they know exactly how to deal with it.
You know who your opponent is. Jim, let's talk about the other half of Carney's problem. I bet he didn't see this coming. From Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, from Yves-François Blanchette. So first of all, and this is my question today, with respect to that speech he gave last week in Quebec City at the Citadel, oh my God, he's being accused of everything from heresy to rewriting Quebec history. And then, Jim, the most grievous error of all, apparently, taking a picture with Bonhomme Carnaval, which, of course, is appropriating cultural history in Quebec, according to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon.
Oh, the thing is, it goes beyond that, because that, of course, is the lead that everyone looks at. And here's this very innocuous picture of the Prime Minister with Bonhomme Carnaval. And the thing is, in these parts, we have an expression, respire par le nez, breathe through the nose, calm the hell down. And I got to tell you, this has become exponentially more embarrassing for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon and the Parti Québécois with every passing hour. Because if you think this is just, it's the Anglos who are just pointing the fingers at the PQ, this conduct, the conduct of the leader of the Parti Québécois has been downright embarrassing. And you're talking about Bonhomme Carnaval. I found the quote. I mean, the story's there, and everyone's, as I say, looking at Bonhomme. But the quote, he says, the history of Quebec and Canada is also one of erasing our distinctiveness across Canada. They took this, then poutine, maple syrup, the maple leaf, So in the culture of lies that is necessary to maintain a colonial regime in place, there is also the fact of using things specific to the territories that are controlled for the benefit of the regime, even if it's inaccurate. They stole Poutine, Aaron. They stole the damn Poutine. And, why should I say what I'm about to say when Charles Milliard, who is a candidate for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party, asks, according to a Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, Quebec's priority is to talk about being under control of British colonialism. What planet is he living on? Trust me, that question is not being repeated just by Liberals. Okay, and I think a lot of people are kind of really, they might be their fingers might be drumming the tabletop right now, listening to this guy, because we know we've had this conversation before, Aaron. The guy does not have a governor the way an engine has a governor. The guy goes off totally on tangent, and the last time I heard this kind of semi-hysteria was back in the day, and I'm sure you and some of our listeners remember Lucien Bouchard when he was the premier of Quebec. Anything was an humiliation for Quebec. We are not, we were on our knees as les Québécois sont humiliés encore par le Canada, and it became a bit of a joke. I think they may have even played with it on Bye Bye, but the fact is, this kind of dime store opera, this shirt ripping, as we say in these parts, is not going to get you anywhere. And honestly, I said it before, and it becomes even more important now. I'd love to see the PQ's numbers in the next Léger poll, because a lot of people, that speech in Quebec City was received very positively, apart from Quebec separatists and, of course, Quebec nationalists in the CAQ, who I've always said are separatists who are too cowardly to hold a referendum. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. As far as I know, Mark Carney remains the most popular politician in Quebec, but man, oh man, it has not been a great weekend for PR or for the reputation of the separatist movement in Quebec.
We'll leave it at that. I'm going to come back to that as my question. Jim, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.